The pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Feinbaum Show Hour 2 podcast.
It is the Paul Feinbaum Show. Peter Burns sitting in for Paul Feinbaum. Always appreciate doing the show for him. I'm going to get to fill in some of the holidays and some of the summers, especially when Taylor Hicks has the, 3.5 minute intro. That means the first segment always goes really by pretty fast. So I do appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at Peter Burns, ESPN. More of your phone calls coming up. 855-242-PAUL is the number. That's 855-242-7285. Mary Kay, I see you and others on hold, but hang tight because we're going to be talking to Max Olson of The Athletic, one of my good friends here. Max, before we get into your fantastic article about recruiting teams that have overperformed and underperformed, I need a little help here. I'm trying to expand my vacation options. You know, like when people go on vacation, normally you traditionally always go back to places that you've been before. So I need one place that Max Olson has been. And I'm asking all the Feinbaum callers this for the rest of the show as well. What's one place you've been that you never thought you'd go and was completely underrated and overperformed as a vacation spot?
We did Jamaica a couple of years ago. That was great. Have you done that before?
I feel like in Jamaica, I just needed to perform what I think it's going to perform like. And I have been once, and it performed.
Sure.
Like, it was good. We had a great time. And, it was solid.
Pretty much you're getting expected value on Jamaica, though. That's a
right.
Fair point.
It was a top 25 recruiting class, and it was like Texas, ranked around 25th. Like, that's basically what Jamaica was like when it came down to actual vacation spots. I will tell you this.
Another one I did that I would vouch for is I did the Seattle-Portland combo trip. And I that's a pretty fun one, especially like I think we took the train basically from Seattle to the Amtrak from Seattle to Portland. And if you go at the right time of year, a lot of good food and beer and all that out there.
It is gorgeous in that neck of the woods. I've gone down there out to play Bandon Dunes, and the first time I went, I flew into Seattle and drove all the way down the coast, and it's a long drive, but it is gorgeous.
Oh, man, the coast drive is insane.
I just spent the weekend in Vermont and Boston, and I switched up. Vermont is unbelievable. I never knew it was like that. It was like the whole damn state is a little postcard where you would just want to go boop on its little nose. It was the cutest thing ever. All right, let's get into actual college football, right? All right, so this article was interesting to me from an SEC standpoint because I didn't see too many names in the overachieving aspect, but there were several that really stood out in underachieving. Why do you think that is, and what were those programs?
Yeah, it's interesting. So of all the SEC programs in this, and look, in case your listeners haven't read it, we're basically just comparing 4-year performance versus the 4 years of recruiting that from 2015 to 18 that built those rosters over the last 4 seasons here, and there was actually one overachiever, and just by a little bit in the SEC, and I think you could probably guess it, but it was Kentucky, and not a huge difference. Kentucky, basically 34th best recruiting over that 4-year stretch, and 29th in terms of performance. So kind of about what you expected. That program's obviously done a great job of evaluating talent, retaining, having an identity, and all that. But yeah, a lot of SEC programs. Alabama, LSU, A&M, Georgia, even Missouri, Mississippi State, Florida, Auburn, all of them kind of end up finishing over this 4-year period about where you'd expect in terms of their recruiting rankings, like kind of right on par with how talented they should be. And then you've got that list of schools, and look, part of it is that somebody has to lose the games in the SEC, and you have programs that have gone through coaching changes and stuff like that. But the big underachievers, Arkansas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, and that's, in a lot of cases, that's because they can recruit at a high level and just are not putting together like top 25, top 30 caliber seasons.
Now, Max, how much of that, Max Olson of The Athletic joining Peter Burns here on the Paul Feinbaum Show, Max, how much of that is what you said earlier of, hey, listen, they're playing in the SEC. There's 8 conference games, and, you're playing against other top-ranked opponents. Or how much of when a recruit is being recruited and all of a sudden they get an offer from an SEC school and they commit to an SEC school, all of a sudden that helps their ranking in a meta way?
Oh, I think that's a great point. Yeah, obviously, certainly, like, not every school in the SEC can win 8, 9 games a year, right? And so that's part of it. There's going to be underachievers, but yeah, it's a fair point because of, I think, over time the brand of the SEC, and you're probably right. I think that when kids get a bunch of SEC offers, I do think that kind of elevates the perception of them. But you've got South Carolina and Mississippi State and Arkansas and Ole Miss all recruiting at kind of that top 20 to 30 level, with Kentucky and Missouri being pretty close. And, I think that creates kind of a high expectation for you when obviously it's hard for everybody in the SEC to finish in the top 30. So, yeah, these teams have certainly good enough talent to be, in some cases, more successful than they've been. Arkansas being the best example of that. Arkansas has been a top 30 recruiting program for the past decade, no matter who their head coach has been. And certainly it shouldn't have gotten as bad as it did under Chad Morris, and that's why they were one of the biggest underachievers.
Who can change that, Max? As far as it's not just 4 new coaches, as I talked about at the beginning of this show on the Paul Feinbaum Show program today, is the fact that I feel like there's 8 new coaches, right? Because last year kind of felt like a red shirt, just trying to go through the motions and get the season over with type season for a lot of reasons. So out of, I would say, the 8 coaches that are newer to this conference, who's going to be the biggest recruiting juggernaut?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that we've seen the upside of South Carolina as a recruiting power. I think Shane Beamer has the goods to kind of get them back in that right direction. Mm-hmm. I think we've certainly seen, it's going to be hard for Ole Miss to get back to the levels we saw under Hugh Freeze, but I do think Lane Kiffin and his staff are capable of luring that kind of talent to Oxford. So I do think that they have that potential. Tennessee is obviously just the wild card in all of this because you still don't know, kind of what clouds are still hanging over them and what penalties could come from the end of the Pruitt era there. But of those underachievers there, I certainly think that there's an opportunity for them to be a lot more formidable in recruiting. And like I said, I think Arkansas has a chance to stay really good in recruiting. And I think Vanderbilt, with the staff they've put together, is probably going to do a really smart job of getting their kind of guys there and probably kind of find that model that you see from a lot of these programs that have seriously overachieved in their recruiting in terms of making great evaluations, retaining them, and having a real system and identity to develop those guys around.
Max Olson joining Peter Burns here on the Paul Feinbaum Show. And Max, I'm really interested to see Vandy and Clark Lee. Not necessarily the product on the field right now, but name, image, and likeness. I can't figure out if it's going to just be an absolute boon for the Starkvilles, the Fayettevilles of the world to where, hey, that is our team. That is our professional franchise. I just saw Tanner Allen getting ice cream. Like I will pay $25 for that ice cream cone because he told me. Or will it help a major city like Nashville tap into something to where all of a sudden they can look at things a little bit differently and they open up a bigger Nashville world of Vanderbilt, or is there a happy in between?
It's a good question. I think that Clark Lee, in my limited interactions with him, but just sort of following his career, he does seem like we're at this kind of this crossroads. I feel like a little bit in college football, where I've talked to plenty of coaches over the years who say, "Oh man, if they start getting paid, or if there starts to be free agency or stuff, like I'm out of here. It's ruined," all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure there are some like veteran coaches in this sport who are really
Dabo said it, right? Dabo a couple years ago said, "Hey, if players get paid, that was taken way out of context for those that didn't know about it." Dabo was talking about like actual salary players, not name, image, and likeness, and he's obviously backed down from it. But yeah, you've seen that happen.
I think that, yeah, absolutely. And so, will those guys, and I get the frustration. Part of it is just because it's making their jobs harder. But, I think there is going to be this kind of newer generation of coaches that kind of understand all that comes with where the future of the sport's going. And I think when you look at like the overachievers list in terms of recruiting, it's a lot of programs, especially in the Midwest, weirdly, that have an identity, that understand how to get players in their region and not stretch and try and do too much, but have the right identity and have the right culture within their program. And I think Clark Lee absolutely seems like the kind of guy that is not going to try and create some sort of fake version of anything they don't need to be. I think he knows how to embrace what they are. And like you said, embrace the big city part of it, like we've seen Jeff Collins do in Atlanta, and really give them a team to be proud of, and a guy that understands how to embrace where this stuff's going, and not being like kind of hard-headed and old school about it.
Yeah, pick your spots, and I think that's what Clark Lee is going to do at Vanderbilt. We'll hear from him coming up on Wednesday over at SEC Media Days. Max, always great stuff, man. You guys continue to crush it over at The Athletic, and we appreciate the time, buddy, and we'll look at Jamaica as a maybe SEC Media Days in 2023 or something, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, man.
There it is, Max Olson joining Peter Burns here on the Paul Feinbaum Show. One quick phone call. Let's get in there. 855-242-PAUL is the number if you want to get on hold. Mary Kay, one of our great listeners on our daily SiriusXM show. What's happening, Mary Kay?
Hey, PB. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate
it. I've been tweeting the show for a while, but this is my first time to actually call, so I'm excited to get to talk to you, and I'm a little nervous, too.
You know what? That's the beauty part about hanging out on the Paul Feinbaum Show is that everybody's family here. So, like, we all pull for each other. So, yeah, there's no nervousness here. So, welcome to the family. Well, you sound great so far. And you got a question? What do you want to talk about?
I do have a question. It has to do with LSU versus Florida. Now, I know that every year UNCD have an annual bet for the LSU-Florida game.
Yes.
And I believe that the loser of this year's bet has to get lines shaved in the side of their head like Brian Bosworth. Is that correct?
It is still to be determined. What me and Chris Dorings, we have every day we do a show together on SiriusXM, and we do the morning show, and it's on SEC Network on Mondays throughout the season. We'll be live every single day from SEC Media Days. But we normally do, yes, have a bet. Last year he had to dress us up as Tiger King when LSU upset Florida. I don't know if we've committed to the Bosworth lines yet. Do you think that we should do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But my question is, now, if by some miracle LSU and Florida end up facing each other in the SEC championship, would there be a wager for that game? And what do you think that bet would be? Because it's got to be big.
I will tell you this: if LSU faces Florida in the SEC championship game, we may not even do the Bosworth lines in our hair. We may go full Paul Feinbaum, and just do the whole complete shaving the head, and only have like the old man horseshoe in the back. Would that work for you, Mary? Is that big enough?
Let me give it some thought.
Okay. I like how it has to go to the judge and the jury and the executioner there on that. Mary Kay, thank you for being a great listener of our daily radio show, and you did awesome on your phone call. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's good to talk to you, PB. I hope we get to do it again soon.
Indeed. Thank you, Mary. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. More of your phone calls. Don't be nervous. I won't bite your head off unless you're an ACC or Pac-12 fan. 855-242-PAUL is the phone number. That's 855-242-7285. Want to hear about how you guys think name, image, and likeness is going down right now, college football playoff expansion, and also a little bit about what I said earlier about how Georgia fans need to accept and embrace these expectations coming into this, I think, historic season. That all coming up next year on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work. You know it's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
One app, one tap, we back. Switch the style up, never beat new track.
One app, McGregor's back in town. Mystic Mac got the suits, he ain't backing down. Got Mitchell with the shots, he's a three-point provider. Corren como locos cause they're scared of the spider.
One app.
La Liga's live on stream. Messi versus Benzema, Clásico Supreme.
Third game on point, Coco setting it off. Ace down the line, the match goes to golf.
ESPN goes deep otra vez.
One app, one tap, it's a worldwide trend.
The ESPN app.
Download now.
There you go, Cam. I like the song coming back from break. A little Return of the Mac. Peter Burns here. My return here to the Paul Feinbaum Show. Love an opportunity to hang out with the Feinbaum family. Always fun. 855-242-PAUL is the phone number. Always get great tweets as well. At Peter Burns, ESPN from your crew. Good to see Kyle Peterson. I'm watching right now in my studio here at the house. ESPN has baseball tonight. They're in Coors Field as we'll have the home run derby tonight. Shohei Ohtani has just been incredible. But good to see KP there. Good to see a bunch of SEC players getting selected in the Major League Baseball draft as well, too. I want to go back there, too, and play a Cam. I mean, this is what it sounded like when one of the Vandy boys, Jack Leiter, went off the board with pick number 2. Pumped to see Leiter do it. Of course, his dad pitched in the bigs for quite a while, and him and Kumar Rocker were such an incredible 1-2 punch. And that's one of the reasons why they ended up playing and making a trip to Omaha and damn near won another title for Tim Corbin's squad. So great to see him get picked and selected. I saw Will Bednar also, who was just nails, right? I mean, just one of the greatest performances I've seen in College World Series and really college baseball, helped bringing Hail State their first national championship in program history. He ended up getting selected by the Giants, which was cool because that's Will Clark's old team. So I know Will was there part of the draft, and so he had to have a big smile on his face when he saw Bednar had been selected. And Gunnar Hoagland from Mike Bianco's squad over at Ole Miss going to the Blue Jays. So one shade of blue to another. Your phone calls here, 855-242-PAUL is the number, 855-242-7285 is where we find our buddy Skip in Athens, Georgia. Actually, Greg. Sorry, Greg. It's Greg Skipper. What's up, buddy?
Peter, you can call me Skip any day. That's what they call me in the Navy.
There you go.
So,
you see? Now I got it.
Yeah, you got it. You're good. Hey, glad to see you on. Hope you're well. And you know, when you were talking about what fans or Georgia fans should get used to expectations, I think this year for Georgia to really be considered seriously as a threat, they've got to have an elite quarterback, an elite offense, and an elite wide receiver. And right now, the question you can ask about JT Daniels is he the JT Daniels you saw in his first game in uniform for Georgia, or is he the JT Daniels you saw in the last 3 games that Georgia played? And those were not really good teams. So I think those are some serious questions that need to be answered before people start packing for playoff contention.
Yeah, Greg, and first of all, I heard you actually I was listening to Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik's brand new show there on WJOX this morning. I heard you on there as well too. So you're just crushing today, my friend. And so it was great to see Cole and Greg get their new morning show, and one of the greatest affiliates in all of my goodness, all of the country. But I will say this, going back to what you talk about with Georgia expectations, is I'm not quite sure if I saw 100% of JT Daniels last year. And what I mean by that, Greg, is I'm not quite sure he was 100% fully healed, and I think that's the reason why he didn't play early. I'm not sure if he had 100% of Todd Monken's playbook. And to me, again, I know people will go back and look who Georgia beat. Were they that great? I mean, even if you shoot 65 from the white tees, you still shot 65, right? Like, they're going to have to play, and right off the bat, they're going to have a 440-yard par 4 staring them right out of the gate with Clemson in their opener. But the thing is, I believe, with Georgia this year, is not only were they going to be a title contender before the world of the transfer portal, Georgia football, and really Alabama football, A&M, LSU, some of the bigger, marquee programs, they should never miss any longer. And follow me here for a second, is the fact that back in the day, you would have teams, and when there was only one signing day, if you missed your guys, if you missed 2 or 3 offensive tackles and they were late steals somewhere else when there was only one signing day, there was no second signing day to where you could go grab someone else, right? You kind of were hosed. Okay, well, that changed when there became 2 signing days. So that helps a Georgia or an Alabama, right? Because at some point, if you miss the guys on signing day 1, you can grab them on number 2. Now you add the transfer portal into that. That's even one step closer to, well, okay, they're going to lose a bunch of guys to the NFL draft. All right, well, check the transfer portal. All right, you're coming with me. You from West Virginia, you want to come play for a contender? All right, you're coming here to Athens. Oh, yeah, you're the best player, and I don't care. Vermont, doesn't matter. Boom, we think you're good, you come here. So they should never miss. And now you add immediate eligibility within the conference. The 1%ers should never fall off. Like if you've already cemented yourself into this upper echelon of college football with transfer portals, immediate eligibility, and 2 signing classes, if you fall off, it is an astronomical effort. I mean, just unbelievable effort. You have to be horrifically bad at what you do to fall off now with everything that's in favor of the big-time programs. And Greg, I think that's part of where Georgia's at right now, and I think that's where Alabama is at, and I don't think any of them are leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, I just think that, it's a testament to the SEC and its ability to maintain a certain level of success each year, regardless of personnel or coaching changes. And in reference to Mac and Cole's show, as a teacher, when you're off during the summer, you got a lot of free time on your hands. And so when you knock all the wife stuff out of the way, then you get to do what you want to.
And sometimes you get to create podcasts as well, too. Angles and Dangles podcast that Greg puts out is fantastic. Greg, we appreciate the phone call. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you and continued success. Hopefully see you next week.
Absolutely. There it is. Our good buddy Greg from Athens, Georgia. 855-242-PAUL is the phone number. Let's get one more quick call in here as you guys are getting on hold. Huntsville, Alabama, we go. Patrick, thanks for joining Peter Burns in for Paul Feinbaum. What's up, Patrick?
Man, how's everything going?
Man, I couldn't be any better, man. Life is good. Got 2 kids under 4. I got SEC Media Days next week, and I'm talking to the Paul Feinbaum program people. So I'm all right.
You living it up.
Hell yeah, absolutely. What's happening, Patrick?
Well, I had a question. We was talking about you talked the Baseball World Series here a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I just got back from covering it in Omaha. Yeah.
Yep, there was 2 SEC schools, correct?
That is factually correct. The Vandy Boys and the national champion Hail State Bulldogs.
Yep. Well, there wasn't nothing really brought up about that, but when 2 SEC football teams played for the championship, it was a big stink. It was like, no, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. Well, what's the difference?
I think the difference, Patrick, and I'm glad you brought it up, I think the difference is because there are much more – I think there's a lot more smarter fans in college baseball because it's a niche, a niche sport, right? Like not everybody just drops in and understands, hey, what Gunnar Hoagland is doing with Mike Bianco's squad, or what Jay Johnson's doing out in Baton Rouge now that he took over the job, right? They don't know the nuances to college baseball, so when they see it, they just go, well, the best of the best just made it. All right, well, I'll watch it. The numbers might have been down because it's quote unquote more real, regionalized. But, Patrick, I think it has to do with there's more casual football college fans that watch it and go, oh, well, here we go. It's just the SEC versus the SEC or the SEC versus Clemson anymore. I think that's what it is, Patrick.
Well, I was curious. I knew we hadn't heard nothing about 2 SEC baseball teams playing each other, but 2 football teams play each other. It's hell on wheels.
Well, and just think that's going to happen a whole hell of a lot more if the college football playoff indeed expands in a couple of years to eight teams. Yep. Because if that's the case, you're going to or 12 teams rather. Because if that's the case, you're going to see a lot more. SEC gets 3 teams in, SEC gets 4 teams in. But you know what? If you don't like it, then put out a better product. And not many conferences can do it. More of your phone calls coming up on the other side. Gary in Mobile, I see you, and others. Stay on hold. 855-242-PAUL is the phone number. I'm Peter Burns, filling in for Paul Feinbaum.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
This is DC and RC. I'm Daniel Cormier. I'm a former 2-division UFC champion, and I'm a bad mamma jamma.
Yes, he is. And I'm Ryan Clark, former Super Bowl champ. Be sure to follow our new podcast wherever you can. We're going to talk MMA. We're going to talk sports, life. We're just going to have a great time. It's going to be a ton of fun.
It's going to be fun, RC.
DC and RC is ready to roll.
Guys, that's DC and RC. You need to follow wherever you listen to all your podcasts.
Paul Feinbaum Show. Peter Burns sitting in for Mr. Paul Feinbaum today at Peter Burns ESPN. You can find me there on Twitter. You can give us a phone call as well. 855-242-PAUL is the number. 855-242-7285. We'll be joined by Jacob Hester in about 20 minutes. Talk a little LSU football. Joseph Goodman from Mayo.com had a fantastic article talking about kind of name, image, and likeness, how the Iron Bowl could really shake some things loose when it comes to those sponsorships and kind of really the overall the redistribution of wealth. And I think that's one of the things before I get to Gary and Mobile, your phone call is I think that's where I figured name, image, and likeness is going to be monster for the players, but it's also going to be monstrous for this conference in particular, the SEC, because when I go places, whether it's Arkansas and going to the Baum Stadium and seeing how many Arkansas Razorback baseball fans there are, or Dudy Noble's the same way, and in these cities throughout the SEC. Outside of Nashville, there's not really other places where there's other big teams, right? That your team, if you're in Gainesville, you're a Florida Gator. If you're Baton Rouge, you're an LSU Tiger, right? And so name, image, and likeness is going to benefit the programs who have the rabid fan bases, right? A lot was made about, oh, look, this could really help Nebraska. Well, Nebraska still has a solid fan base. They don't win many games, but they still have a great fan base. The fan bases here in the SEC are as good as any in, frankly, kind of the world. Like, they remind me of English Premier League soccer teams, right? Like that's how passionate they are. And so name, image, and likeness, the spoils are going to go to not only the college athletes, but where the college athletes can really make hay. And that's where they are a star in their respective cities and towns. And that's exactly what the SEC is right now. So I am kind of curious to see how this plays out, because we are still definitely in the honeymoon phase of name, image, and likeness as we start the 2021 football season. Gary is in Mobile, Alabama. Thanks for joining Peter Burns in for Paul. What's up, Gary?
I'll tell you, I'll get 3 points. This guy from Texas, he's an A&M fan. I follow the A&M SWAT game, and they don't look too good. I don't blame them for this. And we're going to have the best defense in the country.
Gary, hang tight. I'm going to put you on hold for a second. I'm going to try to get a little bit of a better reception, but I think your first thing was talking about Texas A&M's spring game. Listen, I don't care about spring games. Spring games tell me absolutely nothing. In fact, when we go to SEC Media Days, I can tell you, pulling the curtain behind a little bit, I'm excited to talk to the coaches, especially because we haven't talked to them about in 2 years. But I know several coaches who have been on vacation for the last 10, 12 days. They don't really know about their team right now, right? Like, again, they show up and this is their official, all right, get it in gear, time to wrap ourselves around football. So, the only team I can vaguely remember in the last maybe 10, 15 years covering SEC sports that I thought I learned a whole hell of a lot about them in spring ball was 2019 LSU. When I saw it, I talked to people down there, it looked differently. But if you're a Texas A&M guy or you're worried about what their spring game looked like, frankly, I'm not necessarily worried, okay? They're going to see in whether or not it's Hayes King going to be the guy for Kellen Mond, which is really intriguing to me because, we talk so much about who the contenders are going to be in the SEC this year. I start with Georgia. I've already said, and I'm on record, and you could use this audio against me and forever for the rest of my life. I think Georgia wins the national title here in the upcoming season. Now, with that being said, I think Alabama contends. I think LSU is on that cusp. But the team that I can't figure out is Texas A&M. And what stinks about all of this is that had name, image, and likeness come just 1 year sooner for the Aggies, how different all of this would look. And the reason why I say that is that there were so many players, including Kellen Mond, that I think, especially on that offensive line, that maybe could have hung around one more year if all of a sudden they could go sell a couple of beers or their name, image, and likeness to the Dixie Chicken or a Ford dealership or a Camo dealership or whatever they wanted to, do at Texas A&M. That's where I find it interesting, is the fact that you're going to have, everybody complaining about name, image, and likeness. Oh, this is going to happen. You don't know that. You don't know that for a fact right now. You think you're projecting what it might be, but you don't know. What I do know, and we're already seeing it in the sport of college basketball, is how many guys, Scottie Pippen Jr., for a prime example for a name you may know, over at Vandy, pulls his name out of the draft. He's coming back. There's a bunch of guys that I saw over the last, week and a half. The guy said, you know what? I'm going to pull my name out of the NBA draft. I haven't hired, quote unquote, an agent yet. I'm probably going to go back to school. And guess what? That's good. That's good for college hoops. And I think it's going to trickle down to college football as well, too. Where if all of a sudden you got a guy who's a third rounder, a fourth rounder, a fifth rounder, it's good money if you go to the NFL, but you're not necessarily guaranteed that, right? Unless you're a first round or second round guy, you don't really know where you're going to fall into the draft. So if all of a sudden you can get skill position players, and really any player for that matter, that can say, I can make a couple extra bucks and I can go chase something special and be back on campus for one more year, and I'm not starving, and I got a chance to, be in front of the best training facilities, get in front of the best coaching, get a bunch of eyeballs over on ESPN watching me play football. It's not the worst deal. And I think that's going to make this conference even bigger and better, which has got to be scary for everybody else. Your phone call is coming up. 855-242-PAUL is the number. That's 855-242-7285. And here's one thing I do need your help, Feinbaum family. And Cam, I'll bring you in here before we go to commercial break. Cam, you said that you are a Northeast Philly guy. Is that correct? Right. So just like John Hayes, we've had a bunch of these guys. I don't know if that's part of the resume for being a producer here for Paul, is that you have to be kind of a Phillies, Eagles, Flyers
I don't know about Paul, but when I was hired by ESPN about 2 years ago at this point, they were like, oh my gosh, another Philly guy. And since then, 3 or 4 more of my coworkers after me have also been Philly people. So that shows you where we're at.
Coming out of the woodwork. All right, so here's what I need you to do, Feinbaumers. Cam said that he does not have a college team.
It's true.
Okay? You're not allowed, and you're not allowed to go for Alabama because they're defending national champions.
I wasn't going to.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want you to be Drake and just go bandwagon somebody. I need a couple of callers to get in, and we need Cam to adopt a team. Okay, kind of like how we all adopted Ted Lasso's squad this year. We need to do that for Cam. So why should your team be the one that Cam adopts here? We're going to turn a Philly boy into an SEC fan.
Yes, I am reaching out to the Feinbaum community. I am a man in need of a college football team to root for.
We needed the Sally Struthers music, In the Arms of an Angel or whatever it is, or Sarah McLachlan.
I can look for it, honestly.
Yeah, we'll have that. 855-242-PAUL is the number, 855-242-7285. Help Cam find an SEC school for 2021. Peter Burns in for Paul Feinbaum.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Scott Van Pelt here. If you haven't checked out the podcast SV Pod, what are you waiting for? We're like right directly in the flight path for helicopters flying in and out of DC. Otis the dog barking at deliveries. High-level intellectual conversation. Some gambling talk, talking with athletes, celebrities, musicians, and more. Also, we got my guy Stanford Steve riding shotgun, trying to keep me out of the ditches. Download and subscribe to SV Pod wherever you get your podcast. We certainly appreciate it. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Hard to be in a bad mood when you hear that coming back from break. Peter Burns, Paul Feinbaum's little replacement, little backup QB, holding the clipboard for Paul today. 855-242-PAUL is the number. Before we get into all of those calls, let's get into one of our good friends of the program, a friend of the Feinbaum family. Columbus, Ohio, we go. Jeff, what's happening, bud? Jeff in Columbus, what's up, bud? How are you, man?
Good, man. You know it's getting close to football season when old Peter Burns is in the hot seat subbing in for Feinbaum. What's he got to do, take a little rest before media day?
That's what he does. He goes into his hyperbolic or baric chamber or whatever, and kind of like a vampire, like he sleeps, and he just hibernates for like a week just to get ready for SEC Media Days. I think that's what Paul does, if I'm not mistaken. But, we'll be rocking and rolling. Tell me about your Buckeyes this year, man. I feel like I'm a little lost with them this year.
I had the radio show on about an hour ago, and I heard a voice. Some guy named Joe. That didn't sound like any average Joe to me. That sounded like Hot Jim. Was that Jim?
I cannot confirm nor deny Jim in Tuscaloosa had called this program. I plead the fifth.
Yeah, whoever it was, he was poignant and sapient. Right. That's no average Joe.
The cast of characters never ceases to amaze me. Never.
Hey, Peter, tell your boy in the back room if he wants to have a major league letdown to jump on those Georgia Bulldogs, because they're going to have a big letdown again, no matter what you think. If he wants to hang on,
Peter said they're going to win the championship.
No, they're not. I don't see it. Peter. I think that quarterback Daniels is going to not be what he's supposed to build up to be.
Do you know who I am?
Thank you. Jeff, I'm going to roll through a bunch of calls, so I appreciate it. It's good to hear. You get me fired up. When I hear Jeff in Columbus, that means we're getting close to football season. Miss you, man, and great to hear from you. I will say this. What Jeff just brought up was that Cam, our producer here, is a Philly guy, and he needs a team. And he's now basically Jeff was supposed to call, and all you guys are calling to say what team should Cam adopt. And yet he says this is the team that you should not adopt. So I guess, is that an X on the list? Are you crossing off Georgia now at this point, Cam?
I don't know. I'm still open to I'm not crossing them off just because of one person's opinion. I've heard your opinion that they're going to win it all this year. So I'm keeping my options open.
Luke is in Mississippi. I got probably a pretty good inkling of which way he's going. What do you got for me, Luke?
Well, Luke, there's a 50-50 chance there, but I'm going to go with the Rebels of Ole Miss and give you a few reasons why. First, we have Lane Kiffin. That's all I got to say about that. Mm-hmm. But the most important part is we have the Grove. The Grove is the most beautiful campus there on the University of Mississippi. It's a fun place to be. It was, unfortunate because of COVID. It was shut down last year, but it's going to be wide open this year. We have the high-power offense with Matt Corral. We have taken over wide receiver university. So if the place to be, new team to pick, that's good for Cam. It's got to be the University of Mississippi Ole Miss Rebels.
Luke, thank you for the phone call. Cam, the old famous saying way back in the day was they used to redshirt Miss Americas down in Oxford. It is the campus is even prettier. I mean, it is just one of the special places to be. So you could definitely do worse than adopting Ole Miss for your team this year.
Yeah, that was a really good sell as well. I'm also a big fan of the movie The Blind Side, so extra added motivation to potentially hop on that bandwagon. I don't hate Ole Miss right now. That might be the leader.
Springville, Alabama. John, we got about 30 seconds left here before we got to hop on to another hour. But what do you got for Cam here?
Real quick, Cam, you're a Philly guy. You guys boo Santa Claus. You boo draft choices like Donovan McNabb. Your natural choice, you won't even feel homesick, is go to LSU. Midnight games at LSU or late night games, with the language that they use and the way that they treat others, it'll be like you never left home.
You know what? John, I'm trying to think. That may be pretty spot on. LSU fans might be the closest to Philly fans. Am I wrong here, Feinbaum callers? I mean, my dad was a cancer survivor, so the first games we ever used to go to was when he was going as a student, when I was like 7 or 8 at LSU. So the words that I learned going and sitting in the student section at an LSU game in the late 80s and 90s, whew, I felt like I was over at Vet Stadium. I got to be honest with you, Cam. More of the teams that what SEC squad should Cam, our producer here, adopt here for this upcoming season? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about those LSU Tigers. How much cursing or jubilation will there be down at the 225? Jacob Hester joins us next. I am Peter Burns, filling in here on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Do you know who I am?
Thank you for listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast. The Paul Feinbaum Show airs weekdays on the SEC Network, beginning at 3 Eastern.
Hey everybody, it's LZ here. This week on Life Out Loud, I'm joined by the hilarious and handsome actor Daniel Newman. He opens up to me about battling addiction within gay spaces and how important sex and faith positivity are to him. And of course, we couldn't let a whole episode go by without discussing Instagram thirst traps.
If there's a hot photo of me, it's been so photoshopped and worked really, really hard on. And I probably just tripped and fell right before it.
We definitely had a gay old time, you know what I'm saying? And you don't want to miss it. So listen to Life Out Loud wherever you get your podcasts.